Welcome to Light Her Up, your go-to podcast for exploring what it means to align with your passions and create a life filled with freedom, ease, and fulfillment. I'm your host, Natalie Bernacchi, a mom, entrepreneur, and certified coach who left a 15-year corporate career to build a life aligned with my passions and help other women do the same. We'll be diving deep into topics like self-discovery, mindset shifts, and the courage to pursue the life you've always dreamed of. Thank you for being here and for prioritizing yourself. I'm honored to be a part of your journey. If you're ready to find your joy, reclaim your identity, and upgrade your life, you're in the right place. Now let's light it up. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to another episode of Light Her Up. Today, I'm sharing the story of how I found my voice, not just in my business, but in my life. For so long, I didn't use it. I stayed quiet. I played small. I told myself it wasn't worth the stress or the pushback whenever I did stand up for myself. But it was my daughter, my sweet little Maya, who cracked something open in me one Halloween. And in that exact moment, I realized I couldn't not speak up anymore. So if you've ever struggled to use your voice or felt like speaking your truth only led to conflict, silence, or even shut down, then this episode is for you. And before we dive in, I have to share something I'm so excited for. Our Mamapreneur Mastermind, the waitlist is officially open for enrollment. So if you're a purpose-driven mama building a business, this space was truly made for you. It's for the women who want to grow, not grind. It's for the women who are ready to build a business that aligns with who they are, not who they think they should be. It's where strategy meets deep mindset work and where clarity, confidence, and connection come together so you can expand in ways that feel so grounded, so aligned, and just so good. This mastermind has been so fulfilling for my business partner, Emily, and me. We've created a space that's magic. Both of our launches sold out a month before we even officially opened the doors to our masterminds. And the women inside, they've called it transformational, magical, and even the best thing they've done for themselves and their businesses. And we have both virtual and in-person options, and you can hop on the waitlist today using the link in the show notes. So let's dive in. So growing up, I had a really strong voice. At least at first I did. I was really opinionated, very structured, and very controlling. I liked order, and I even needed it. My parents had me when they were 21. They were essentially babies raising babies, and they did the best they could, but they were still young and they were still figuring things out. My dad was spontaneous. He's still super spontaneous and go with the flow. And my mom was so unorganized, and there was always a bit of chaos. And I felt like I was the opposite of both. I just craved stability and structure because we all crave what we don't have. And my way of creating that was by controlling my world, staying hyper organized, and using my voice and speaking up when I needed to. I remember when I was younger going to Catholic school in New Jersey, and we wore uniforms, and we'd spend time at my dad's house. Even though we lived with my mom full time, they had joint custody, but he was a real estate agent, always on the go. His business was like, going from house to house in his car. And I think just due to the nature of his personality and the business and the fact that like we lived with my mom primarily, but we'd stay with my dad sometimes, my uniform for school would often get left at my mom's. And so I remember showing up to school in regular clothes, and I remember feeling like so embarrassed. And I remember this feeling of I'm going to get in trouble or I'm not going to fit in. And I didn't know the word anxiety at that age, but I was definitely anxious and I definitely had anxiety. And my parents lovingly, but also like just dismissively, I guess, would tell me, it's not the end of the world, Natalie. Stop worrying. Essentially, they would be like, they may have even said this, I don't know, but stop being such a control freak. And I was made to feel like my intensity, my worry, my voice, like it was too much. So over time, I slowly began to mute it. And fast forward to my career, over 15 years of climbing the corporate ladder, I worked under a boss who was so passive aggressive and micromanaging for 9 years. And I spent years working on eggshells, choosing silence over stress a lot of the times. So sometimes I'd muster up the courage to speak up, to use my voice, to stand up for what I believed in. But when I did, it usually blew up in my face. My boss at the time did not like being challenged. It ended up causing me more stress, more anxiousness, and just more of me shutting down. So eventually I just told myself, why bother? Just keep quiet. It's easier. Just like go float under the radar. Just do what he says because it's just going to make your life more difficult. What's the point of standing up for yourself when it's just making your life more hard, more difficult and you're getting paid the same? So I essentially fell into this pattern of not using my voice, and I didn't use it with friends. I didn't use it in meetings. I didn't use it in just everyday moments. And there was this one time that I remember, my friend Megan and I still laugh about it, but I was on a girls' trip. This was quite a few years ago, but we were sitting at like a round table, and it was kind of, actually, I don't even think it was that loud of a restaurant, but I was genuinely trying to speak up to get the server's attention. And my friend Megan was laughing, and she was like, Natalie, something along the lines of like, you're never going to get the server's attention. She can't hear you. You're whispering. And in that moment, I was like, I am? Like, I thought I was being so loud. But she was right. I had gotten so used to keeping quiet that I didn't even know how to like get a server's attention anymore. That's how like inward that I had become. And it wasn't just about the volume, it was about the advocacy. Like so many moments where I wasn't advocating for myself, I wasn't standing up for myself, I wasn't asking for what I needed. I just wasn't taking up space because I felt like I couldn't take up space. So, anyway, fast forward. Now I have 2 kids, and it was Halloween. We were trick or treating. Maya was probably 4 years old. This was like 4 years ago. She just turned 8 yesterday. And Jax was about 2. And we were trick or treating, and this man walking a big dog approached us. And he must have seen that Maya was kind of timid or scared because she like stood behind me, like, you know how little kids like go behind their parents. And he was like, oh, don't worry. My dog is really nice. He doesn't bite. You should pet him. And he said it nicely at first. And Maya was so cute and so sweet. And she was like, no, thank you. And the guy kept pressing. He kept saying, like, no, my dog is really friendly. Don't worry. He's not going to bite you. You shouldn't be scared of dogs. And like, then he kept getting like more pushy and assertive as far as like, pet the dog. Like, look, pet the dog. Give me your hand, pet the dog. And I remember like getting nervous, sort of like I felt like I wanted to speak up, but I couldn't. And I kind of just was like, oh, she's scared of dogs. Like, oh, like, even though I saw how much in discomfort she was and like how much she really was like uncomfortable and didn't want to pet the damn dog. And like she didn't want to have to keep saying, no, I don't want to pet the dog. And she was only 4. Eventually, like the guy left and we left. But when we walked away, it hit me hard. I realized in that moment that I hadn't protected her. I wasn't modeling to her what it means to stand in your truth and to stand up for yourself. And honestly, that night I couldn't sleep. I remember thinking about that moment over and over and over. And I promised myself that that would never happen again. that I will be the woman, I will be the mom who uses her voice, not just for myself, but for my daughter and just in general for what matters. So shortly after that, everything started to shift. I left the job I was miserable at. I started advocating for myself, not only as a coach or a mom, but as me. And the emotions that came with that moment were so much gratitude and so much sadness. I was so grateful that I changed, that I got to start using my voice, that I recognized the need to start using my voice, that I get to show my children what it means to speak their truth. But the sadness was also real. There was a sadness for the version of me who stayed quiet for so long, the one who didn't ask for what she needed, the one who couldn't get a server's attention in a pretty quiet restaurant, the one who didn't advocate for herself in relationships or in work or just in everyday situations. And I look back at that version of me and I send her love because now I know that I can use my voice and I can stand up for myself and I should use my voice. Not to be loud, not to be right, but to be true to what I believe in and what I stand for. I've learned there's a way to speak up with kindness and respect for others and for myself. And that's what I want to teach my children, that their voice is powerful, that they're allowed to say no, that they're allowed to say yes, that they're allowed to speak up when something feels off, and that they don't have to keep quiet to keep the peace. So, one of the biggest things I realized is that a lot of us learned early on that our voice was too much. Maybe someone told you to quiet down, to stop being dramatic, or even that you were overreacting. And over time, little by little, we start to believe that. We start to keep things in. We start to play it safe. We start to stay small. But your voice isn't too much. It's not a burden. It's your truth. And it deserves to be heard. I used to think that staying quiet would keep things easier, more peaceful, and less messy. But honestly, it just kept me disconnected from myself and my needs and my power. Silence feels really safe in the moment, but it really ends up costing us our authenticity. And you don't have to be loud or confrontational to use your voice. You can be clear and grounded and kind and still speak up. And you can still respect someone else and respect yourself. And that's truly what I want to model for my kids now, and honestly model for myself, that you can be soft and powerful at the same time. Both can be true. And truthfully, my kids have been the ones to show me that. Our kids reflect so much back to us. My daughter Maya reminded me what it looks like to stand in your truth, even when it's uncomfortable. That one little no thank you she said on Halloween taught me more than years of corporate meetings and personal development books could have ever. And sometimes the smallest humans are our biggest teachers. So remember, your voice is not too much. Your truth matters. You can use it kindly and powerfully. Take up space. You can take up space and still be soft. And you can teach your kids to do the same by showing them through you. So if this episode hit home for you, I would love to hear your story. DM me on Instagram and tell me, when was the moment that you realized you weren't using your voice? And when did you finally reclaim it? And if you're craving a space where you can be fully seen, fully heard, and fully supported, join the Mompreneur Mastermind waitlist. It's the most magical container I've ever been a part of, and Emily and I cannot wait to support you inside. So, as always, thank you for being here and share this episode with someone who needs to find their voice again. You deserve to be heard, they deserve to be heard, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Light Her Up. I hope you're feeling inspired and ready to take steps towards a life better than you ever dreamed. I see you, I hear you, and I'm so proud of you for showing up and prioritizing your journey. When you fill up your cup with love, you can pour so much more into the people and passions that matter to you most. If this episode resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you subscribed, left a review, and shared it with someone who could use a little extra light. For more, connect with me on Instagram at The Light Within Collective. I'm sending you my love, and I'll catch you on the next episode.